Pursuant to notice, I now call up the resolution H-Res 28 expressing the sense of the House that the United States should declare its support for the independence of Kosovo for purposes of markup and move its favorable recommendation to the House. Without objection, the resolution will be considered as read. The committee is considering this resolution today, and that's why I support the resolution, and I yield to my friend, the ranking Democrat, Tom Lantos, for such remarks as he chooses to make.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to ask my colleagues' undivided attention. There are few issues I have been personally as deeply engaged in during the last 24 years of my service in this body than the issue of Kosovo. And today we are at a historic juncture as we vote on this resolution. I urge all of my colleagues to join our distinguished chairman, Chairman Hyde, and me in supporting this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lantos.
Well, here we are again in the House of Representatives. This is the committee room of the full Committee of International Relations for the U.S. House of Representatives. I think it's important that we're standing here. We just had what they referred to as a markup session, full committee, for House Resolution 28, and that would be the sense of Congress, their support for the independence for Kosovo. And what we heard were incredibly important statements by the chairman, Henry Hyde, who introduced this resolution with the ranking member, the #1 Democrat, Tom Lantos, who again gave a very strong statement for why the United States, it's in the United States' interest to support the independence for Kosovo now. It wasn't only the chairman and the ranking member. We had Congressman Rohrabacher and so many others say that. But obviously we have other members, some new members, who felt that they needed to have more time to study this issue since we had the hearing May 21 of 2003, and here we are already in October 2004, so the vote wasn't taken today. But the importance of today's session is that the Albanian American Civic League and the Albanian American community, especially the board of the league, people like Marsh Natsulai, Luan Bacola, and so many others, with the tremendous day-to-day, night and day work of Shirley Cloyes as our Balkan Affairs Advisor, we have kept the most important issue for the Albanian people on the agenda in the U.S. Congress at a very difficult time. At a time, one, that the State Department still has its 20-year, and I started this 20 years ago almost, feelings that we should not support any movement for independence for the Albanian people. We've heard that during the hearing in 2003, and we heard it again today. But the fact is, they were not able to cancel this markup. The Serbian people now have their own lobby working in Congress. They have now a Serbian caucus sponsored by the Serbian Unity Congress. And there are some congressmen here who have Serbian constituents, and they're saying what the State Department is saying, that we need to have standards before status, which obviously is not the right approach, and the resolution says no, standards before status will not work. What we need is independence now, because Kosovo needs the status to borrow the money from the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, European Fund, Bank for Reconstruction, so it can rebuild the infrastructure and attract the private investment. Why? 70% of the people are unemployed. It's that simple. Look at our election here for president. The issues of the economy come up all the time, that the president may not be creating enough jobs. Well, imagine Albanians, where there's 70% unemployment in Kosovo, almost 50% unemployment in Albania. How are these people, especially with half the population under the age of 25, how are they going to support themselves and their family? Especially when they're not allowed to go to Europe. They're not allowed to come here. And as Congressman Hyde has said many times, what are we going to do if we don't act now on final status for independence? Create another Gaza Strip in the middle of Europe? That would be wrong. So the importance of today is that our league, our lobby, the Albanian American Civic League, with the support of the Albanian American community, especially those on our board, we have shown that we can put on the agenda of Congress at a time the State Department is not supporting us, and at a time we have a blistering war in Iraq with many Americans being killed, and the problems with nuclear proliferation in Iran and North Korea, and the problems of the Palestinians and the Israelis not yet solved, we got the full committee of the House of Representatives, the International Committee of the House of Representatives, to consider the issue of independence for Kosovo once again. So I am very happy that we're here, especially in this room. As you can see the symbolism when you have Congressman Hyde, the chairman. There's his picture up there. He's still the chairman, but the former chairman who introduced the bill, by the way, before Hyde did, is Ben Gilman, and there he is, right there as well. So this is kind of a museum of liberation for the Albanian people, because it was in this very room that I, as a congressman, introduced the first resolution for the Albanian people of the former Yugoslavia, Kosovo, back in 1986.
Welcome to the Voice of America in Albanian.
Lidhja qytetare shqiptar-amerikane, një organizatë lobiste me qendër në New York, dje në Washington, ishin një grup përfaqësuesish të shqiptarëve nga Mali i Zi, të cilët i shtruan këto çështje përpara disa anëtarëve të dhomës së përfaqësuesve. Kolegu ynë Ilir Ekonomi ishte në seancë dhe përgatiti këtë material.
Lidhja qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane në drejtimin e ish anëtarit të dhomës përfaqësuesve DioGuardi dhe këshilltares për çështjet ballkanike Shirley Cloyes ngul këmbë se në Mal të Zi po ndodh një spastrim etnik i heshtur. Ata thonë se shqiptarët diskriminohen, ata po detyrohen të shpërngulen, po konfiskohen tokat dhe po asimilohen. Ky realitet, thonë ata, nuk njihet sepse gjatë konfliktit ballkanik në Mal të Zi nuk pati ndonjë luftë armatosur. Shqiptarët nga ana e tyre janë të shqetësuar se nëse ky realitet vazhdon, pas disa dekadash në Mal të Zi nuk do të ketë më shqiptar. Për herë të parë, problemet e të drejtave për shqiptarët e Malit të Zi u paraqitën në një seancë dëshmish të organizuar nga grupi i dhomës së përfaqësuesve për çështjet e të drejtave të njeriut.
Kërkojmë një avancim të statusit të shqiptarëve, që shqiptarët të jenë qytetarë të barabartë në aspektin kombëtar, si qytetarët e tjerë në Mal të Zi. Por këtu ekziston një paradoks shumë i madh për arsye se edhe kushtetuta aktuale e Malit të Zi garanton të drejtat e shqiptarëve, por është ky staf qeveritar i cili nuk e realizon ata në praktik. Problemi qëndron aty se nuk ekziston kur farë disponimit dhe vullnet politik i qeverisë malazeze që edhe shqiptarët të jenë të barabartë me të tjerët në aspektin kombëtar.
Antari i dhomës së përfaqësuesve Tom Lantosh tha se gjatë vizitës në Mal të Zi kishte takuar shumë shqiptarë, të cilët tha ai ishin inteligjent dhe kompetent, dhe që në asnjë mënyrë nuk e meritojnë statusin e qytetarëve të klasit të dytë që u imponon atyre qeveria.
Tekstet mësimore janë skandaloze, nëse gjitha janë përkthim nga gjuha slave, dhe do të thotë mbas përkthimit ato janë deformuar, do të thotë kanë probleme edhe materiale, gabime materiale, mos të flas, gabime gramatikore e tjera të tjera. Atëherë po ashtu është problem tjetër mënyra dhe punëtor të arsimit. Për shembull, një mësimdhënë si gjuhës suaj, supozojmë gjuhës angleze, jep gjuhën angleze, tek nxënësit shqiptar një kohë përmes gjuhës slave, një kohë që nxënësi shqiptar nuk e din, nuk e njeh fare gjuhën slave. Do thotë mësosh një gjuhë të huaj përmes një gjuhë tjetër të huaj.
Nga ana e tij, zoti Lantosh u përgjigj se hungarezët e Vojvodinës dhe serbët e Bosnjës mund të përdorin librat e tyre të shtypur në Hungari ose në Serbi. Nuk ka arsye, tha ai, se përse shqiptarët e Malit të Zi të mos kenë libra në gjuhën shqipe të shtypur qoftë në Kosovë apo në Shqipëri. Këtë çështje, tha zoti Lantosh, do t'ua parashtroj autoriteteve malazeze. Drejtuesit e lidhjes qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane kanë bërë thirrje që Shtetet e Bashkuara të mos mbështesin pranimin e Serbisë dhe Malit të Zi në Bashkimin Evropian ose në NATO, në rast se nuk njihen dhe respektohen të drejtat e shqiptarëve në Mal të Zi. Për Zërin e Amerikës, Ilir Ekonomi, Washington.
Wife Shirley. Shirley. Good to see you. How are you? Hello, everybody. Yeah. Hi. How are you? Hi. How are you? Thank you. How are you? Everybody started. Very nice. These are representatives of the Albanian American Civic League. And then Gio. Coming from all over, from North Carolina, from New York State, from
other areas. It's a nationwide organization.
Yes. In fact, it's international, but it really has the bulk of its board in the United States.
So where are most of the Albanian Americans, where do most of them live? I mean, what parts of the country, where are they concentrated?
Right here in New York, of the 500 to 600,000 we estimate Albanians in America, half of that population is in the metropolitan area, mainly in the five boroughs.
Tri-state
Tri-state, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I would love to hear a bit from the group about Albanians and the Albanian American community perspective on things. But let me just say, generally, you know, the Balkans has been one of the big issues for the international community and in the United Nations over the past decade. Now, lately, because of Iraq and others in Afghanistan, it's been maybe not as prominent as it was before, but we still, very high on our agenda is the situation in Kosovo, for example. But I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe...
Let me just quickly begin, and then my wife, who's the Balkan Affairs Advisor of the Civic Legion,
Okay.
Analyst, the publisher, will then chime in, and then I want you to, if we have time, to get me else. First, let me say this, because you talk about Albania and Mr. Nesho. You know him, you respect him, but Albania cannot speak for the 3.5 million Albanians that are outside the country of Albania. And yet, Ambassador, those 3.5 million Albanians are on the border of Albania, in Western Macedonia, southeastern Montenegro, southern Serbia, a place called Prisheva, and Kosovo. And the declaration I have to make now is that no one in our group is thinking that there will be a country that will embrace 7 million people without everybody consenting and without everybody adhering to the Helsinki principles. If it comes in the future, it will only be that way. It will never be through any armed conflict. And we believe the last armed conflict happened in Kosovo for good reason. We know Mr. Milosevic is in the Hague right now where he belongs. So I just want to make that clear because there's a lot of propaganda against different Albanian groups. Oh, watch them. They want a greater Albania. They want to change board. No. We understand what the future is in Europe. The future is to be integrated, to be united, to be democratic, and to be an economic force to compete with America and China and whatnot. We believe and survive. And we believe the Albanians, those 7 million I mentioned, 3.5 million in Albania, and 3.5 million, which used to be part of the state of Albania before the great powers decided to create a state called Yugoslavia just after World War I, and literally drew a line down the Ottoman Empire, Albania, which was declared a free state by Mr. Chmali. And these Albanians, 3.5 million today, ended up in areas where they've never been respected. There's been a hostile racism by Serbs, Montenegrin Slavs, Bulgarian Slavs, and Macedonian Slavs against them. Had they been given their rights of citizenship in those states and allowed to take responsibility for their lives, you would not have these problems today. And one of the great things, reasons we're here today, is that you are in control of that. It's the United Nations which controls Kosovo. It's a protectorate. So anything that the United Nations decides is going to prevail in Kosovo. Our biggest problem with Serbia is that it takes every opportunity to interfere with that process. It started with the occupation of Mitrovica, and today, in violation of your resolution 1244, the Serbs, with the help of the French and the Russians, have created a de facto partition in Kosovo called Mitrovica, where now the northern part of Mitrovica, they took all the Albanian homes, they occupied them, so Albanians have to look across the Ibar River to see their old residences now. There's not a war, there's not conflict, but there's a lot of resentment because the United Nations decided to just look the other way on that. And looking the other way on that, they're not looking the other way on what the Serbs want, which is called standards before status. And this has become the new mantra of the international community, and certainly Mr. Chovic, who's very effective at what he does. He's adopted many Western ways. It's hard now for the Albanians to deal with the standards before status, although they are willing to do it, because there's 70% unemployment in Kosovo today. The youngest population in Europe today is Albanian. The highest birth rate in Europe today is Albanian. Half the population of Kosovo, 1.8 million, half the population is under 25. And 70% is under 30, as I recall. And the unemployment is 70%. Now, Mr. Ness shows Albania, guess what the unemployment rate is there? 50%. And that's a sovereign state. So it's really economic issues which are really burning a hole in our ability to do things. And that's why Kosovo needs status. Because nobody wants to lend money to Kosovo when they don't know what the final status is going to be. And they got started with something called privatization, embraced by the European community and us. They formed a Kosovo Trust Agency called the KTA, and it was just about to be launched. Guess what Belgrade does? Belgrade launches a suit in the United Nations, threatens all the Albanians, and if you go forward with this, we believe we still have title. We will personally come after you, and now even that little hope to keep these people working because they had taken over all these socially run enterprises, and they would be hotels and whatnot that used to be part of the socialist government of Yugoslavia at that time. Now everybody doesn't know where anything's going, and I'd like Shirley to comment on this.
Be brief.
Yes,
Okay,
I know, after
about
that,
10 minutes.
so I will wait, okay. Thank you very much. As you know, the UN Security Council will be determining to a great extent the fate of Kosovo. Right now, it just so happens that Ben asked what are the burning issues today. They happen to be all very current, and as you probably know, the United Nations mission in Kosovo has blocked the privatization effort from going forward. It started on October 7th. There's a huge contradiction that the international community and need to no longer ignore. On the one hand, it says that Kosovo must fulfill certain standards in order to achieve final status or even to discuss it. The leadership has made clear repeatedly, we will accept the return
Leadership of the Kosovo
it's a coalition government, as you probably know, there's three parties running it, that non-criminal Serbs will be welcomed back into Kosovo. And our position is, and I believe most of Kosovo is, that can only happen if Albanians are freed from the fear of being killed again. It's not, the problem, as Belgrade wants to exploit, is not, the critical problem there is not the killing of Serbs by Albanians, because if you look at the figures, by the way, and it's deplorable, of course, but there are more Albanians that have been murdered since the end of the war than Serbs. The problem is the fear of genocide in the Albanian community. And when the Albanian community continues to see that most of the international community bows to the demands of Belgrade, even after Zoran Đinđić was assassinated and the collusion of war criminals, organized crime, and the ruling establishment in Serbia has been well established, then it's very, very difficult for the society as a whole to move forward and focus only on the return of Serbs when none of the conditions are created for anyone to live there now that are adequate, no less, people returning from, exile. And I doubt, by the way, that there'll
every 4 hours.
be very, very few people returning at the end of the day because it's not necessarily where they want to be. But I'm more concerned than anything about the fact that the international community is not being open about why it opposes self-determination and independence for Kosovo and why it does not allow it to at least achieve economic freedom.
When you say self-determination, do you also mean complete independence, or are you?
Absolutely, because I don't see how anything else is going to be possible. And if it is going to be something else, I think that there should be honesty about that. The lack of security, the lack of knowledge about what is going to transpire is not only keeping everyone on edge, there can be no development.
What do you think the European view of this is?
The European view, in my opinion, what I believe the European Union wants, and which I think is most regrettable, they do not want to take responsibility for their role in 10 years of Balkan wars. So they've worked very hard to create a false parity between the perpetrators and the victims. As a result, they would be perfectly willing to have Kosovo put back into a federation of sorts with the former Yugoslavia. It's a very, in my mind, it's
Who has the lead responsibility within Europe? Who do you think is the most person most paid attention to? Is it out of Brussels? Is it Solana? Or is it one of the countries? Is it France or Germany? Who exercises some leadership on this issue?
That is an incredibly important question that I would give a great amount of money to have the true answer to.
Oh, okay.
Solana has been ruling the effort to push everyone back together. The U.S. government, even the Bush administration, even did not agree with the creation of this new entity called Serbia and Montenegro, which not a person in the world believes will be able to go on. But there's also one thing. There's a very false belief, in my opinion, that Europe thinks that Belgrade is the repository of some future economic development. And nothing could be further from the truth, because the money that was funneled through Belgrade for so many years was a product of the Cold War and our belief that Tito was better than everyone else. So there is a constant leaning towards Belgrade instead of an insistence that they denazify, one, that they end the racist policies that caused them to participate in wars of aggression for 10 years, and that they truly become a democratic state living side by side other democratic neighbors. As long as there's a belief in Europe that, this Belgrade can somehow be, part of a future gold mine, it's hard to say, in my opinion, who's running the show, because Italy may want a piece of it and France may want a piece in Germany, etc. But as you know, the EU, with 19 member states right now, it's constantly moving policy-wise to the lowest common denominator because everyone is competing. And it will take the United States, therefore, it will take the United States to take the policy lead.
As it did.
In the Balkans.
It
It doesn't have to take, but if we don't do it, we've seen the history in Europe.
Well, you'd think that the Europeans could.
Right, but what is the price of not recognizing that? Another war in the Balkans, and if there is, who's going to end up paying for it in the main? The United States.
Okay.
So the very policies that we're pursuing work against the outcome that the United States professes to want, lasting peace and stability in the Balkans. And
Right.
anything you can do to...
You've reawakened my interest in the Balkans. I've been down in the trenches fighting the Iraq situation.
And that's all the more reason why you don't want a problem here.
No, it's very interesting what you're saying. And I
Maybe summarize this.
No, don't. Let me talk.
Not now. I mean,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Sure.
Right.
Be delighted. No, I'm very interested. I've never had a chance to talk to people from the area, nor have I been there, which maybe I should do.
Vetëm pak orë para se presidenti Bush të mbante fjalimin e tij, organizata lobiste Lidhja Qytetare Shqiptare-Amerikane zhvilloi një takim në një nga sallat e selisë së Kongresit për të diskutuar mbi shqetësimet e kësaj shoqate dhe veçanërisht mbi statusin e Kosovës. Me këtë rast, dy antarë me ndikim të Kongresit Amerikan, në një letër drejtuar kolegëve të tyre, bëjnë thirrje që të bashkohen me ta në përkrahje të projekt rezolutës së paraqitur vitin e kaluar për mbështetjen e pavarësisë së Kosovës. Takimin e ndoqi korrespondenti ynë Astrid Lulushi.
Në letrën drejtuar antarëve të Kongresit, kryetari i Komisionit për Marrëdhënie me Jashtë Henry Hyde dhe antari i këtij komisioni Tom Lantosh thonë se arritja e qëndrueshmërisë politike dhe ekonomike në Kosovë dhe Ballkan kërkon më shumë se sa ndihmën i ndërtimi. Ajo kërkon zgjidhjen e statusit përfundimtar të Kosovës. Në letër thuhet se është koha që Shtetet e Bashkuara të shpallin përkajën e tyre për pavarësinë e Kosovës, duke u përmbajtur parimeve që ato vetë i kanë njohur se e drejta e vetëvendosjes është e drejtë themelore e të gjithë popujve. Vetëm 2 orë para se presidenti Bush të fillonte fjalimin e tij mbi gjendjen e vendit dhe kur ligjvënësit kishin filluar të mbushnin sallën e Kongresit, drejtori politik i personelit të Komisionit të Kongresit për Marrëdhënie me Jashtë, Bob King, u shkëput për disa minuta nga puna e tij për të transmetuar shqiptarëve amerikanëve mesazhin e ligjvënësve Hyde dhe Lantos.
Albanian American friends are here with us on this special occasion. It's particularly
Jemi të kënaqur që miqtë tanë shqiptarë amerikanë ndodhen këtu në këtë ngjarje të veçantë. Është veçanërisht me vend që ata janë këtu, pasi gjendja në Kosovë dhe në mbar Ballkanin ku jetojnë shqiptarët është shumë e rëndësishme për Shtetet e Bashkuara, ashtu si dhe qëndrueshmëria dhe ardhmja e asaj pjese të botës, tha zoti King. Letra duket se është një riafirmim i projekt rezolutës 28 dalë nga dëshmi dhe debatet e zhvilluara vitin e kaluar në Komisionin e Kongresit për Marrëdhënie me Jashtë. Projekti rezoluta u artua edhe me punën dhe këmbgulin e lidhjes qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane e kryesuar nga Joseph DioGuardi.
So I think we should be really happy that we have two important congressmen.
Ne, tha zoti DioGuardi, duhet të ndjehemi të gëzuar që numri 1 i republikanëve dhe numri 1 i demokratëve në Komisionin për Marrëdhënie me Jashtë vazhdojnë të mos harrojnë se çështja më e rëndësishme është pavarësia për Kosovën. Pjesëtarët në darkën e mbrëmshme ishin kryesisht anëtarë të Këshillit Drejtues të lidhjes qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane. Ata kishin ardhur nga mbar Shtetet e Bashkuara ku organizata ka degët e saj. Mund të thuhet se lidhja qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane e drejtuar nga ish-ligjvënësi Joseph DioGuardi dhe bashkëshortja e tij Shirley Cloyes është shoqata e parë lobiste shqiptaro-amerikane, e cila u pasua pastaj nga organizata të tjera lobiste shqiptare. Lidhja qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane shënon këtë vit 15 vjetorin e krijimit të saj. Astrid Lushi, Zëri i Amerikës, nga selia e Kongresit.
Por, le të ndjekim në fillim kronikën e përgatitur të dielën e kaluar me ish kongresmenin shqiptar amerikan gjatë takimit që ai pati në Toronto me komunitetin shqiptar.
Të dashur teleshikues, siç u patëm njoftuar në emisionet tona të mëparshme, me ftesë të 4 shoqatave shqiptare që veprojnë në Kanada, asaj shqiptaro-kanadeze, Kosova, Ilirida dhe klubi Rinia, erdhi në Toronto për një takim me komunitetin shqiptaro-kanadez, zoti Joseph DioGuardi, ish kongresmeni shqiptaro-amerikan dhe aktualisht kryetari i Ligës Qytetare Shqiptaro-Amerikane.
Ramiz was pretty smart. He knew that Lantos was the head of the Human Rights Commission, and he knew how bad Albania was. Hello. From where?
Joseph DioGuardi është i pari kongresmen me origjinë shqiptare, i cili bëri prezent për herë të parë para Kongresit Amerikan çështjen e shqiptarëve të Kosovës në fundin e viteve 80. Por edhe më vonë, sidomos përpara dhe gjatë krizës kosovare, si një lobist i shkëlqyer, ai ka luajtur një rol të padiskutueshëm në parashtrimin e problemit shqiptar në nivele të larta të qeverisë amerikane dhe qarqe të tjera me influencë në Washington.
Eventually, however, the same Western governments recognized not only the independence of Slovenia and Croatia, but Bosnia and Herzegovina and Macedonia as well, having discovered that independence for those nations involved not so much a change of borders as a change in the status of existing borders.
We are now going to begin the worldwide lobby starting here.
Ardhja e DioGuardi në Toronto ishte një hap i ri që ai dhe bashkëshortja e tij Shirley hidhin në fushatën e tyre sensibilizuese për problemin e shqiptarëve të Kosovës, atyre të Maqedonisë, Çamërisë dhe të Malit të Zi. Megjithse kanë kaluar gati 5 vjet që nga çlirimi i Kosovës, sipas DioGuardit, problemi i pavarësisë së saj është lënë pas dore, ose tentohet që të shtyhet sa më shumë nga komuniteti ndërkombëtar dhe sidomos nga administrata aktuale amerikane. Tek mungesa e vullnetit të kësaj të fundit, DioGuardi sheh qartë influencat të grupeve të fuqishme lobiste të kombeve të tjera, të cilat nuk duan kurrësi një Kosovë të pavarur.
Why haven't we done it, and at what point are we going to begin? Why is it that we're quick to be there?
Nëpërmjet materialeve filmike, prova të ndryshme dokumentare dhe veçanërisht përmes një fjalimi elokuent të një patrioti modern karizmatik, publiku i pranishëm pati rastin të informohet nga afër për çështje të ndryshme të prapaskenave që luhen në Washington, ku edhe sipas të gjitha gjasave do të vendoset herët avon fati i pavarësisë së Kosovës.
Solution, we can't go back under Serbia. And then in the next press say, oh, well, I hope we're going to be having final status discussions in 2005, 2006. No, this won't work. All of these things don't connect.
Ardhja e DioGuardi në Toronto, përveç një takim prezantimi, ishte mbi të gjitha një apel për komunitetin shqiptaro-kanadez që të mbështet Ligën Qytetare Shqiptaro-Amerikane.
if you make a contribution, it's going to be full.
Le të ndjekim mesazhin e zonjës Shirley DioGuardi, drejtuar komunitetit tonë.
For Joe DioGuardi and myself to be in Canada today representing the Albanian American Civic League and working with all of the major Albanian organizations in Toronto. We very much hope that Albanian organizations in every city and town in Canada join with us in what we have begun today, which is launching the international campaign to support the independence of Kosovo now, specifically House Resolution 28 that was introduced by Congressman Henry Hyde and Tom Lantos in the U.S. Congress, and using that material to develop a bill that will be submitted in the Canadian Parliament. We would like to see this message brought to all of the parliaments and to the press in the world.
Elektronike www.neweuropereview.com.
Ish ligjvënësi republikan nga New Yorku Joseph DioGuardi thotë se shqiptaro-amerikanët duhet i kanalizojnë energjitë e tyre në punën me Kongresin Amerikan, ku si thot ai ata kanë patur sukses deri tani dhe mos i kanalizojnë fondet në ndonjërin prej fushatave presidenciale.
Po, zoti DioGuardi, i cili kryeson lidhjen qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane, i bëri këto komente duke reaguar ndaj një takimi që u zhvillua në New York nga komuniteti shqiptar për të grumbulluar fonde për fushatën presidenciale të kandidatit demokrat John Kerry. Të ndjekim në vazhdim intervistën që zhvilloi me zotin DioGuardi, kolegu Ilir Ekonomi.
Zoti DioGuardi, ju keni qenë ligjvënës republikan. Si lobist që punoni për çështjet shqiptare, si mendoni ose si keni në plan të kanalizoni energjitë e shqiptaro-amerikanëve gjatë fushatës presidenciale?
I am currently a volunteer president.
Unë jam aktualisht kryetar i lidhjes qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane, një organizatë lobiste e cila nuk është në prirje partijake. Për tani nuk mendoj se ne duhet t'i kanalizojmë energjitë dhe fondet e çmuara të shqiptar-amerikanëve në ndonjërin prej fushatave presidenciale. Në Kosovë koha nuk pret dhe ne nuk mund të presim derisa presidenti, cili do që të jetë vitin tjetër, të fillojë të merret me çështjet e mprejta ekonomike dhe të sigurisë me të cilat përballet Kosova sot, ku 70% e popullatës është e papunë. Pikpamja ime dhe këshillit të lidhjes qytetare shqiptar-amerikane është se ne duhet të bëjmë atë që kemi bërë në të kaluarën. Duhet të punojmë në ato aspekte ku kemi patur sukses dhe konkretisht në Kongresin Amerikan. Na duhet të punojmë si me republikanët, ashtu dhe me demokratët në Kongres, për të nxitur departamentin e shtetit për të ndryshuar politikën amerikane në Balkan, sidomos për Kosovën. Ne kemi bërë këtë për 15 vjetë. Kemi punuar me lobin hebraik, duke i shtyrë demokratët dhe republikanët si senatorët e Joseph Biden dhe Joseph Lieberman, apo antarët e Kongresit Tom Lantos, Benjamin Gilman, Dana Rohrabacher dhe Henry Hyde. Ne patëm sukses kur i bëm thirrje presidentit Clinton për të bombarduar forcat e regjimit të Slobodan Miloševićit. Pra ne kuptojmë se cilat janë ato gjëra që kanë sukses. Ne nuk jemi një komunitet i madh këtu në Amerikë, prandaj duhet ta përqendrojmë mirë strategjinë tonë. Lidhja qytetare shqiptaro-amerikane po punon me forcë për të garantuar se pavarësia për Kosovën do të jetë çështje e parë në rënd të ditës. Këtë po bëjmë me anë të një rezolute të paraqitur në Kongresin Amerikan, si dhe përmes faqes sonë në internet.
Zoti DioGuardi, presidenti që do të vinë në shtëpinë e bardhë do të ketë një detyrë mjaft të rëndësishme përpara tij. Çështjen e statusit Kosovës. Në vitin 2005, komuniteti ndërkombëtar ka premtuar se do të rishikojë standardet për Kosovën për të filluar diskutimet rreth statusit. Si po e shfrytëzoni ju këtë rast?
E kam bërë të qartë në shumë raste se ne nuk mund të presim deri në vitin 2005. Unë e di se çfarë dëshiron Departamenti i Shtetit dhe se çfarë mendon Bashkimi Evropian në ndikimin e Francës, Greqisë dhe Rusisë. Por ne duhet të tregohemi më të zgjuar. Ne duhet të pyesim veten se çfarë kërkon Kosova sot, çfarë kërkon shqiptarët rreth Kosovës sot, dhe kjo kërkesë është përcaktimi qysh tani i statusit përfundimtar. Unë do të shkoj në Kosovë në muajin shtator së bashku me disa ligjvënës të rëndësishëm dhe ne do të kemi rastin t'i themi presidentit Bush se nëse ai kërkon mbështetjen e komunitetit shqiptar për të rizgjedhur, shqiptarët kërkojnë vetëm një gjë, pavarësinë për Kosovën. Shpresoj se të gjithë shqiptarët do të bashkohen me organizatën tonë, po ashtu si dhe anëtarët e Senatit dhe të dhomës së përfaqësuesve për t'i bërë thirrje presidentit që të përpiqet për pavarësinë e menjëhershme të Kosovës.
Zoti DioGuardi, nga përvoja juaj e gjatë në punë me shqiptarët, sa të angazhuar janë shqiptarët, sa aktiv janë ata gjatë fushatave presidenciale në Shtetet e Bashkuara?
From my experience, the Albanian American community has always been...
Nga përvoja ime, komuniteti shqiptar-amerikan gjithnjë ka qenë shumë aktiv në fushatat për anëtarët e Kongresit. Me miq që ne kemi patur në të kaluarën dhe që përsëri i kemi, si senatorët Dole dhe Biden, si dhe shumë të tjerë qofën të kaluarën apo sot, mund të them se 90% e energjive tona janë përqendruar te Kongresi Amerikan, sepse kjo na ka dhënë rezultat dhe prandaj unë e kam përqendruar punën tek përpjekjet për të lidhur me të gjitha organizatat shqiptare në Shtetet e Bashkuara dhe në Balkan për të bindur Departamentin e Shtetit përmes Kongresit Amerikan që të bëjë ndryshime politike së tij. Mendoj se ne të gjithë duhet të angazhohemi në garën presidenciale dhe të votojmë sipas bindjeve tona. Gara presidenciale do të jetë shumë e fortë dhe ka ende kohë për të marrë një vendim.
Zoti DioGuardi, ju faleminderit.
Ligjvënësi amerikan Dena Rohrabacher u ndërua dje me çmimin ballkanik të paqes për rolin e tij mëse 15 vjeçar në Kongres në kuadër të mbrojtjes së lirive dhe të drejtave të shqiptare dhe forcimit të qëndrueshmërisë dhe paqes në Kosovë dhe në mbar rajonin. Çmimi ballkanik i paqes jepet çdo vit nga Lidhja Qytetare Shqiptaro-Amerikane, një organizatë lobiste e drejtuar nga ish ligjvënësi amerikan Joseph DioGuardi dhe bashkëshortja e tij Shirley Cloyes. Kolegu ynë Arsit Lulushi na sjell si të tjera.
Unë jam kongresmeni Dena Rohrabacher, përfaqësues republikan i zonës zgjedhore numër 46 në Kaliforni. Jam këtu në Washington me miqtë e mi shqiptar-amerikan për të marrë një çmim që i përkushtohet paqes. Por mesazhi im dhe i tyre është se për të patur paqe duhet patur liri. Nuk mund të ketë paqe nëse njerëzve nuk u jepet mundësia të realizojnë aspiratat e tyre në formën e qeverisjes demokratike. Prandaj nuk ka arsye që miqtë tanë në Kosovë të mos gëzojnë këtë të drejtë të kontrollojnë fatin e tyre nëpërmjet votës. Nëse ne, Shtetet e Bashkuar, nuk ngrem zërin në mbrojtje të kësaj të drejte, paqe nuk do të ketë. Unë jam shumë i lumtur që marr këtë çmim nga miqtë tanë shqiptar-amerikan, njerëz që kanë në zemër dashurinë për liri dhe drejtësi. Këto janë të gjithë amerikanë të mirë, tha ligjvënësi Rohrabacher. Por të pranishëm në ceremoni ndodhet që jo vetëm amerikanë me prejardhje shqiptare, por edhe shqiptar me vizitë në Shtetet e Bashkuara. I tillë është At Nikol Marku, drejtuesi i Kishës Ortodokse Autoqefale Kombëtare në Elbasan dhe në gjithë territorin e Shqipërisë. At Marku ndodhet në Amerikë me ftesë të shoqatës mbar shqiptare Vatra. Lidhja Qytetare Shqiptaro-Amerikane ka kohë që ka ndërmarrë fushatën me moton Pavarësia e Kosovës tani. Si organizatë e njohur lobiste me në krye një ish ligjvënës energjik si Joe DioGuardi, kjo shoqatë ka mundur të sigurojë përkrahjen e shumë anëtarëve të Komisionit të Kongresit për marrëdhënie me jashtë, përfshi kryetarin e këtij komisioni republikanin Benjamin Gilman, i pranishëm në ceremoni. Shirley Cloyes, këshilltare për çështje ballkanike pranë lidhjes qytetare, vlerëson në lartë rolin dhe përkrahjen e këtyre ligjvënësve për çështjen e pavarësisë së Kosovës. Por ajo është e mendimit se për përmbushjen e këtij qëllimi, nevojitet jo vetëm përkrahja e degës legjislative, Kongresit, por edhe asaj ekzekutive, Shtëpisë së Bardhë. Për sigurimin e një përkrahje të tillë, thot zonja Cloyes, roli i komunitetit shqiptar të Amerikës është ekskluziv. Vetëm kështu mund të arrihet pavarësia tani, jo nesër, jo pas një viti, jo pas 10 vjetësh, por tani, thot zonja Cloyes. Arsit Lulushi, Zëri i Amerikës, Washington.
Now I invite podium former Congressman and President of Albanian American Civic League, Joseph DioGuardi.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I know how difficult it is to leave your families. The weather is getting good. Marish had a little dinner at the restaurant last night for those who could not be here tonight, and many were very generous and are supporting our league, but they couldn't be with us. But you're here, and what a wonderful thing to hear a great artist like Javad Lamani. I hate to bring you from the heights of the great Albanian Shpirti Zemra of Javad Lamani now to see Mr. Milosevic. But reality is to see the best and to see the worst. But as far as I'm concerned, they're both saying nice things about me. How could that be? That your best friends and your worst enemies say good things about you. In this case, we were lucky because Mr. Milosevic was trying to save his skin. The first day he's at The Hague, he says to the judge, and thank God there was an Albanian in Croatia, Anton Kaczynari, who was there with the tape running, because he's calling me. He says, Joe, you wouldn't believe it, what I'm hearing Milosevic is saying about you and your league, that you put him in The Hague. And that's why he was saying it. He was trying to blame our league for bringing the Albanian people to Washington, and that's why he was in The Hague, because we brought Albanian separatists to Washington to expose what he was doing. So to try to save himself, he told the truth about what is going on in Washington with the Albanian national cause. This tape now is on in Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania. We sent it all over the world. In a couple of weeks it will go on the internet, because it starts off with Milosevic saying who he thought did the job in Washington for the Albanian people, and then it has my appeal, the appeal that Shirley is the architect of, to bring a petition to Washington from Albanians all over the world for their independence. In effect, a worldwide referendum to be signed, hopefully by 1 million people by the end of this summer, and then Tom Lantos and Henry Hyde have arranged to deliver this to President Bush. Think strategically. That's what we're doing. That's why Shirley and I and our league will work day and night now for the independence of Kosovo, to pass that resolution, to get 1 million signatures, to go to the White House, to impress upon the Bush administration that he has to give his only true friends in the Balkans, the Albanian people, who on 9/11 were crying with candlelight visuals, with posters, with prayers, while the Greeks were dancing in the street with joy in Athens. The Macedonian Slavs were dancing with joy in Shkup, and we know the Montenegrins were doing the same thing. We have to remind President Bush and our government that his only true friends in the Balkans are the Albanian people. I'm going to play now 3 minutes, Milosevic and DioGuardi making the case for independence. This is the tape that's going. If you haven't seen it already, we'll give you copies of this tape. We made many, many of them.
U podršci albanskom separatizmu i terorizmu na Kosovu i Metohiji posebno se angažovala albanska emigracija u zemljama Zapadne Evrope i SAD. U Americi je 86. godine još osnovano Albansko-američka civilna liga pod predsjedništvom uticajnog kongresmena Josefa DioGuardija, čiji je zadatak bio da aktivno lobira na Capitol Hillu za zahteve i ciljeve kosovskih Albanaca. Aktivnim lobiranjem Liga je otvorila put kosovsko-metohijskim separatistima za zvanične kontakte u Američkom senatu i Kongresu. U svakom slučaju, Albansko-američka civilna liga je u mnogome doprinela sistematskom širenju antisrpskog raspoloženja i satanizaciji srpskog naroda u američkoj javnosti.
Hello, I'm former Congressman Joe DioGuardi, the president of the Albanian American Civic League. You've just heard former Serbian dictator and indicted war criminal Slobodan Milosevic misrepresent our important work in Washington to free Kosovo and all Albanians from the tyranny of his regime. The Civic League has been working for 15 years as an independent lobby in Washington and around the world for all Albanians in the Balkans, but our job is not yet finished. Even though Slobodan Milosevic is in The Hague, his racist, ultranationalist party won in Serbia's recent elections. Even though Kosovar Albanians endured occupation and genocide at Belgrade's hands, many members of the European Union and the U.S. State Department are seeking to either petition Kosovo along ethnic lines or put it back under Serbia. Bowing to international pressure, most of Kosovo's political leaders, unfortunately, have been passive in the face of these challenges. At the urging of the Albanian American Civic League, the leaders of foreign policy in the U.S. House of Representatives, Congressman Henry Hyde and Tom Lantos, have taken an important step to ensure that Kosovo and the Balkans become free, safe, democratic, and prosperous. They have introduced House Resolution 28, calling on the United States to declare its support for the independence of Kosovo now. Please visit the Civic League's website at aacl.com and add your name to the petition calling on President Bush to support the passage of House Resolution 28. You can make a difference today by joining the international campaign for the independence of Kosovo now. The future of Kosovo is in your hands.
Don't you think that's a good message for every Albanian in the world to hear? Not easy to do. You know, when you get to the Balkans, not only do you have problems with whose party are you dealing with, then you have to figure out which party owns this TV station, which party owns this newspaper. So some say, oh, I'm not going to play this. In America, the newspapers give the story, and then if you don't like it, you send in your editorial and you disagree, but you see both sides. Albanians have yet to learn, when it comes to the press, real democracy, to put the whole story in and then let the discussion begin. What they do is they want to keep it out because maybe it doesn't support my candidate. It doesn't support my party. How are you going to build a nation of 7 million people in the Balkans, 15 million people in the world, if you can't have a free discussion of ideas so you can learn who the best politicians are, the best candidates, so we can have the best government in Kosovo, the best democratic government in Albania. This is what our league is trying to do. We have taken the most difficult job of all the Albanian organizations in the world, to build a nation of Albanians who speak the same language, who live in their Albanian lands in the Balkans, divided unfairly, without their consent, and trying to show the world that this is a nation to be respected. Not easy to do, but this is the mission that we have. And obviously, while we're doing that, in the eyes of the public, we are trying to accomplish what we can in Washington for the politics or for the empowerment of the people in those political systems now in which they live. Because unfortunately, there are 7 million Albanians, but 2 million live in Kosovo, 3.5 million live in Albania, 100,000 live in Preševa, another 100,000 around live in Montenegro, 800,000 to 1 million living in Macedonia, and we don't know how many are in Greece. Could be 1 million with the Arfanitis and the Chams. And we know it could be at least that when you bring in all the migrant workers that come in. What a difficult thing it is to explain to people in Washington why Albanians are in 6 different countries, but they speak the same language, and they all want to be treated as a nation. That's the mission we have. And you heard Javad Lamani. You heard the spirit he has as an Albanian from Macedonia. Albanian from Albanian lands. It's now called Macedonia. It's almost a sin to call it Macedonia. Like it's a sin to call where many of you were born, Montenegro. These were Albanian lands. But unfortunately, Albanian politicians were not strong enough 50 years ago, 100 years ago. They were strong to fight for freedom, but they didn't see what was going on around the tables in Europe where the politics was being played. And by the time they woke up, they lost half their state to a place called Yugoslavia when it was formed in 1991, and we've been fighting that battle ever since. So, this now will go on the internet. We now have over 10,000 signatures. We just started this in the last month on our website. and 10,000 people from around the world. If you go on, you'll see what country they're from, and you'll see where the signatures are coming from. Almost half are coming from the United States, and a lot are coming from, I guess, a quarter from Kosovo. But then you'll see South Africa, Australia, Kenya. We have Albanians all over the world signing on. And what's beautiful about it is now we can get power we never had before, because when they sign on, guess what? We got their email. We're going to end up with hundreds of thousands of emails. And we'll be able to now send information to these Albanians who are signing on. But to sign on, they have to see our website. Not easy to get them to see the website, but this is why this ad has to be played everywhere to do that. So we're in the new age, the information age. Skanderbeg, he needed to fight with a sword. Adam Jashari, he needed to fight with a gun. We don't need that anymore. You may need a gun to defend yourself. I've always said, nobody should walk into your house as they did in Prikaz, as they did in Kosovo in 1999, to kill the families without you being able to defend yourself and have your gun. I told that to the people in Shafa when I was there last summer. But this, for us, is the new sword. The new Sparta is the pen, the mouth, the computer. This is where we have to win the battle for independence and the battle to restore the Albanian nation of 7 million people in the Balkans. Now let me show you the friends we have, because it's not enough to have Albanians saying this. You need to have other respected people saying it, like Tom Lantos. And in particular, you need Jewish Americans saying it. Why? Because they have the power of public opinion today in Washington, and they are the friends that we got during the war in order to get Mr. Clinton to drop those bombs on the Serbs. So let's hear now from our good friend, Tom Lantos, the #1 Democrat of Foreign Affairs. Nobody outranks Tom Lantos in the House of Representatives in terms of his seniority on foreign affairs. He's the #1 Democrat on the committee. Mr. Hyde is the #1 Republican. And those two people have signed this resolution for the independence of Kosovo now. So let's hear now Mr. Lantos. This is the hearing last year, full committee in Congress, May 21, and here he's introduced.
And with great pleasure, I recognize our distinguished ranking Democratic member, Mr. Lantos.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you for calling today's very important hearing, our first on Kosovo in a number of years. I just want to say a few words because we have an illustrious list of witnesses and I'm anxious to give all of them ample opportunity to present their views. It was 13 years ago, Mr. Chairman, that my wife and I traveled to Pristina, where we were greeted by tens of thousands of Kosovars in the center of the city as we focused attention on serious human rights violations. We went on to visit Albania, where we were the first official United States delegation to visit that country since the end of the Second World War in 1945. Mr. Chairman, you and I are the authors of House Resolution 28, along with 14 of our colleagues. Our resolution expresses the sense of the House that the United States should declare its support for the independence of Kosovo. I am convinced that the only way to address the problem of the political, economic, and social instability that plagues the Balkans is to resolve the issue of Kosovo's final status without further delay. Since our military victory against the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia in 1999, the international community joined the Kosovars in rebuilding their country, revitalizing their economy, assisting them in establishing democratic institutions of self-government, and healing the scars of war. However, progress in Kosovo, currently a United Nations protectorate, is being held up by its inability to determine its own fate. Under Slobodan Milosevic, the Yugoslav government dismantled Kosovo's political structures, replaced ethnic Albanians with Serbs in most good jobs, enabled Serb-owned firms to take over Albanian-owned companies, and forbade Albanians from purchasing or improving property in their own land. I've traveled to Kosovo on numerous times and personally witnessed that travesty. As a result of the systematic persecution and discrimination against ethnic Albanians by the Milosevic government, today the unemployment rate in Kosovo is still over 60%, increasing the likelihood that Kosovars, 50% of whom are under the age of 25, must find employment abroad or engage in other activities in order to survive. The perpetuation of these economic difficulties heightens the potential for continued instability in the region, and it is detrimental to our national interests in the Balkans. Achieving genuine long-term political and economic stability in Kosovo and in the Balkans requires much more than reconstruction assistance. It demands the resolution of the final status of the area, and that means independence for the Kosovars. Under the Yugoslav Constitution of 1974, Kosovo was equivalent in most ways to Slovenia, Croatia, and the other republics of the former Yugoslavia. As an autonomous province, Kosovo in practice exercised the same powers as a republic. It had its own parliament, it had its own high courts, it had its own central bank, police service, and defense force. Through its definition in 1968 as a part of the Yugoslav federal system, it gained representation at the federal level. When Slovenia and Croatia demanded independence, similar arguments were made by Western governments against recognizing the right of those countries to self-determination. Eventually, however, the same Western governments recognized not only the independence of Slovenia and Croatia, but Bosnia-Herzegovina and Macedonia as well, having discovered that independence for those nations involved not so much a change of borders as a change in the status of existing borders. The lines on the map remained the same, but the status was upgraded from republican to national. I am convinced, Mr. Chairman, that Kosovo is entitled to precisely the same treatment. Those who argue that we must put standards before status in the case of Kosovo are themselves applying a double standard. Kosovo deserves independence for the same reasons as did the other constituent autonomous parts of the former Yugoslav Republic. Security, democracy, and pure justice demand it. Persistent tensions in the Balkans cannot be resolved if we continue to procrastinate on Kosovo's final status. To achieve a just and lasting peace in Southeast Europe, a turbulent region if there ever was one, we must give Kosovo its independence, and we should do it now. I strongly urge all of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle to join us in co-sponsoring the legislation, and I look forward to the day, not in the distant future, when Kosovo will gain its full independence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Like gold. When those words come out of the mouth of a man who spent 30 years in the Congress, the one who's considered the head of the Jewish lobby, a of 34 Jewish American congressmen in Washington, we know we have the right person on our side. And don't forget, he was not born in America. He was born in Hungary. He knows the Albanian people from when he was a little boy. He knows the history. So we are lucky to have him. Wasn't that a great speech? Wasn't that wonderful? This is what you have to know, that we have friends. And let me introduce now one of the most competent people the Albanians have the pleasure to have on their side. My wife and the Balkan Affairs Advisor to the Albanian American Civic League, Shirley Cloyes, ran a publishing house for 10 years. She works day and night. Nobody pays her. This is her volunteer. She's looking for justice for the Albanian people the way you are. And Shirley, thank you for all you do. Will you give me a picture?
We're lucky to have DioGuardi, as you know. Mia Brahma, thank you very, very much. It's wonderful to be back in Detroit. It's wonderful to be in this beautiful church. Many thanks to Father Chira for giving us this opportunity tonight. And thanks very much to Maris Sulai, one of the most valuable members of our board of directors, as Ivana is the other member of the our board of directors from Detroit. Thank you to you and to everyone who helped make this possible. In America, you can be Albanian and American. In the United States, you can speak Albanian and you can speak English. In America, you can fly your Albanian flag and your American flag, whether it's in the privacy of your home or in public. In America, you can express your political views openly, whatever they are, about the U.S. system and about the realities of Albanians in the Balkans. In America, you can influence the debate about Albanians in the Balkans and what our government is doing. And you can do all of this without fear of arrest, torture, imprisonment, expulsion, and genocide, the reality of the Albanian people for the last 125 years. And the tragedy today, as you know, is that this is not the history in the Balkans, and for many Albanians, this is still not something that they can enjoy. That fear of arrest, torture, imprisonment, and genocide persists. And that's why I believe that Albanian Americans have a very, very special responsibility, opportunity, and obligation. It is our responsibility to resolve the Albanian national cause in our time, to do what our sisters and brothers in the Balkans are unable to do. It's our responsibility and obligation to go to the United States, to Americans who are not Albanian, and to help them to understand that in a global society, all of the solutions and all of the problems are integrated. What's happening in the Balkans does affect Americans. What's happening in the Balkans is, we must tell Mr. Bush, in the vital interest of the United States. And as Senator Joe Biden, someone I think you all can appreciate for many reasons, said in Chicago last year when we were visiting the Albanian community, every time the United States fails to understand the need for united, whole, undivided Europe, we pay the price. We pay the price in American blood. Our economy falters. And he said, until we realize that we must honor and protect the ethnic legitimacy of Albanians, all of the pieces in the region will fall apart and we will pay dearly. So now we have to look at where we are today. And for me, again, as Albanians and Americans, we have a special obligation to prevent war. And for me, there has never been, and I don't know what you're thinking out there, but for me, the possibility of war has never been greater. And one of the reasons that possibility has never been greater is something that we have failed to do. If it were not for Učića, Kosovo would not be free today, at least to the extent that it is. But if we don't carry on the next phase of the war, which has always been the real war, and this is what we're not doing now, Albanians will go back into the backwater of history. The real battlefield is not on the ground, as Joe said before. It's information. The real battlefield is in the press and the parliaments of the world. We have to remember, and I hope we all have a very long memory. We're going to need it. We have to remember that it was only for a short period of time, in 1998, when Milosevic attacked Granica and went across raping and pillaging and murdering Kosovo in 1998 and 1999, for that short period of time when the world saw Albanians being put on trains in cattle cars and sent to Blace and other camps. For a short period of time when Albanians were being murdered before the eyes of the world, the 125-year reality of the Albanian fight against genocide came into the spotlight and to the fore, and people for a brief period of time understood. But I'm sorry, I'm afraid we're back now to where we were a long time ago in 1913. Albanians once again at the mercy of the so-called great powers, not just the Serbs and the Greeks and the Russians, but Western Europe and even in the United States. And if we don't act now, in my opinion, Albanian reality and our brothers and the sisters in the Balkans will go back into the backwater of history for another 125 years. And we will have lost the cause forever. And if we do, yes, America and Europe, you will pay dearly. So now, let's look at, I think, if we're going to go forward and we're going to act, we have to understand something about where we've come from and what's going on and who the actors are. So let's start with the United States. Who are our actors now? We have the United States, we have Western Europe, we have our Albanian politicians, and we have the diaspora. Let's start with our wonderful government. It's tragic. We have a State Department, it doesn't matter what administration, with only a few people who were exceptions, and I think the only exception I'll make in this last period is Madeleine Albright. We have a State Department consistently tied to Belgrade. And we start with Baker and Eagleburger and Scowcroft. These are just, the first actors on the stage, and then Holbrooke. And all of them have been governed in their actions by a Belgrade-centered mentality. So what did that mean in the beginning, at the start of the wars in the Balkans with Milosevic? We had Mr. Baker saying we have no dog in this fight. And at the same time, we had Mr. Baker saying, oh, but wait a minute, Yugoslavia has to stay together at all costs. Oh, Yugoslavia is a sovereign territory. We can't touch the territory of Yugoslavia. And we see the same unbroken pattern. We have Eagleburger, who spent years in Belgrade and made lots of money off Yugo cars and other business interests. We had Eagleburger, Baker, and Scowcroft working with Mr. Milosevic in the banking industry. So this is our history in America. We have to go back and look at that, and we have to come to grips with the fact that the State Department has never been the ally of Albanians. Again, there were good people in the State Department, and they need to be acknowledged. We have some people, we have 5 people, in fact, in the State Department who resigned because of the concealed concentration camps in Bosnia. But we have to understand our system in America. Fortunately, there's always a silver lining in every problem, I say. We have a Congress, we have a system of checks and balance, and we have members of Congress willing to stand up and oppose our State Department, our administration's policies, and you saw one of those very important people tonight on the screen, Tom Lantos. Now, isn't it interesting? Let's look for a second, very briefly, at what our State Department policies have brought us to from the time Milosevic started his wars of aggression for 10 years to today. What do we have now? Let's look at their handiwork. Let's ask them, have their policies succeeded? Do we have a better reality? No. What do we have? We have Serbia, a quasi-mafia state, selling weapons to Iraq, with war criminals as much a part of the government and organized crime as the ruling establishment. We have Serbia that's failed to come to grips with what it's done over the last 10 years. And we have a government that's failed to ask Serbia to denazify and reform. We have Montenegro that we've pushed, to stay together with Serbia. And we know what the reality of Albanians are there, and we know it's a very weak state. We have Macedonia. Has the Ohrid Agreement worked? Has it? I mean, I haven't seen massive progress. Have you seen massive progress in Macedonia? I haven't. I've heard the illusion of progress. I've heard that we passed a lot of laws, but I haven't, there's been no implementation that really matters. We have Kosovo. We have 70% unemployment, no access to World Bank loans and lending and anything that would help put Kosovo on the track that it definitely wants to take. We're nearing the point where we might see real deprivation. The diaspora can't hold it forever. We have a very, very bad picture here. And we have Western Europe divided, not willing to do the right thing. And why? Because everything that's happened here has been predicated on one idea after the war, which is we should have, as you all know here, we should have granted Kosovo its sovereignty. We should have told Serbia to go packing, and we should have integrated Kosovo into the Balkans with the condition that respect for minority rights happen. But we didn't do that, and we're delaying it indefinitely, and we're using standards before status as an excuse not to do anything. Now let's go to Western Europe in this story, together with the United States, and the reality that we face because Kosovo's independence isn't being recognized. And that is, I guess this is the hardest part for me. In post-war Kosovo, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel strongly. The worst reality is that the United States and Europe, with the help of Serbia and Greece, have created a false parity in the eyes of the world between state-sponsored terrorism in Serbia and the Kosovo Liberation Army. And today we have the strongest effort to criminalize the Kosovo Liberation Army on the one hand, and we have one of the largest anti-Albanian propaganda machines operating that I've seen since war's end. And these two things are about to come together when we have the trials of Limaj Musliu and Vala in The Hague, which are coming up. So now the question is, what are we going to do? I'm very concerned that for the first time in the diaspora we have people who are willing to sit by and collaborate with the very forces in our government that do not support the independence of Kosovo now. I'm very concerned that we have House Resolution 28, and this is, the first and only legitimate vehicle or legitimate piece of legislation that we can use to our advantage, and we have people in our community that don't want to support it. I think we have to look at the fact and ask ourselves, why is it that every time we have a call for weapons, people can't rush fast enough to knock each other over to get up and support that effort? But when it comes to doing what I'm talking about now, which is to face the reality that we have to change the dynamics in the West and we have to stop just talking within the community and changing everything about how the Albanian world is perceived, there's a lack of interest, enthusiasm, and energy on the part of too many people, fortunately, and not on the part of everyone. I think we have to think about these things, and I just want to go back to when you look at the history of the Civic League, please don't take it for granted. Arvin Jafari said a few years ago that the Civic League was the beginning of the diplomatic effort in the 21st century, or the late 20th century, I should say, on behalf of the Albanian national cause. I think we've made a tremendous difference, and there are two things that I think you know about. One, we prevented Učića from being criminalized in March 1998 at a very historic hearing when we got the members of Congress to face off Gelbard and tell him, no, KLA has not been criminalized, is not on the U.S. list. That was a very important moment. We were close to being in a position where none of the weapons would have gone through, and at that point the weapons were necessary. They were necessary to defend the Albanian people. Civic League is responsible for that. Civic League is also responsible and one of the major actors in bringing Milosevic to The Hague. I know, because I worked with the lawyers and prepared the report that made the difference. We are responsible for House Resolution 28. We are responsible for the first and the most historic trip of a U.S. official to the Albanian lands in Montenegro. Judge us, please, I hope you will, by what we've done. Margaret Mead, a very famous American anthropologist, said, "Never underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. It's the only thing that ever has." I hope everyone here tonight will become the small group of committed people in the diaspora who will use everything at our disposal to back House Resolution 28 right now, to create other mechanisms like that throughout the world. And I'm serious about this, to do it in the next 6 months, because time is running out in Kosovo. Time is running out in the national cause. You can make a difference. The future is in your hands. Parlamentarit shumë, rrobë Kosovë.
Bekohumi që do të amon për dashurisë tane, e për njëtën Zotin tonë. Amen. U bafës mirë.
Thank you.